Now there's 4 1/4-inch studs that hold this on. 2 of them are way down here in Never Reach It land, and then 2 are right up on top. Welcome back to the channel. We are in the 1958 Buick Special, aka Riviera, and we're getting started on this ride. The first thing we're going to tackle, like we said kind of in the intro video, is the speedometer. Now on some of these old cars and even new cars, to get to the speedometer you kind of got to start digging from the bottom up, but I believe on this particular model we can access it from up here. Now it's still probably going to require a visit to the chiropractor when we're done, but it might be slightly easier to access here than underneath. One concern right out of the gate is getting this vinyl to come off without damage. So we got to get all these trim pieces off and then see if this pad will come off clean, and then there should be a panel here that we take off and then start accessing, you know, connections behind here. Okay, the first layer of removal has been completed. Something to note, up here I went ahead and took the sun visors down, and you got to be really careful because this fabric is a lot of years old and it wants to pull away and come with the part that it's been, you know, fastened to for a very long time. But getting the sun visors out of the way gives you room to take these very intricate corner moldings out in a way that doesn't just destroy stuff, because they've got a lip here that folds over this seam here. Just over the years it's poked through the headliner a couple places, so you really have to be delicate in getting that off of the fabric first and then peeling it off of the lip of the A-pillar here. We don't need to take these 2 off, but then we did take the rest of the trim around the dash on the front. Right here's a screw, and then you have these that go around 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 of those. I think we got a little crack right there. I didn't notice that in the intro video. There is one crack in the dash, but anyway, we got to get some more screws and bolts out, and then we'll get you caught up. Well, here's a scary update. Yeah, I expected this part of the dash up here and this part of the dash, this nose piece, to pretty much be one piece, but it wasn't coming apart how I had remembered doing it, you know, a long time ago, the last time I did it. And I got the pull in here and they come apart right there. This flat section comes off separate from, I'm just going to call it the nose piece because I don't know what else to call it. So I think we're kind of loose. I got to set you down though, because we got to pull this out very carefully. Who would ever thought that you guys are going to watch through the windshield while I get after this instrument cluster? Pretty self-explanatory. We've got some lights. The circular metal pods are lights. Now you do have one that's marked brown over here and red over here, so those are going to be some sort of, I'm betting, turn signals are what those are. And then the 2 big posts, kind of on the left of center there, that's the ammeter, and then to the left of that is the other, hang on, gas gauge. And then over here is the temp gauge. That could get interesting. Seems like not a wire. Okay, well, we'll figure it out. The battery is disconnected. We're going to take a picture of this with the old pocket computer. So just in case we get a little confused, we can find our way back. All right, we're making progress. You can't, the oil pressure and temperature gauge are mechanical. You can unscrew the oil capillary tube from the back of that gauge, but it's just like if you go and you get a triple set of gauges at the Irish store or the Napa Valley. The temp gauge is just kind of hardwired in, so you have to look over here. There's a couple screws and you can actually take both of those gauges out and set them aside, and then now we're back on track. Now there's 4 1/4-inch studs that hold this on. 2 of them are way down here in Never Reach It land, and then 2 are right up on top. I've gotten this one down here in Never Reach It land disconnected, but I got to get this one over here. This should have been the hardest one, and we'll go here, and then we just have the top 2, and then from there all we have to do is disconnect speedometer cable over on the side here, and then the trip cable should kind of pull out with it. We might have to be careful of that. Barely tight. I wonder if somebody didn't try this once before. Okay, we should be down to these last 2 here. Okay. Oh, now we get somewhere. So this guy is going to have to come off at the knob, I think. That's your speed setter thingy. Speed minder. That's what it is. Now, we've got our trip cable disconnected from the dash, so it should pull up through. Might have to take a little fishing. Oh, yeah, it's got a little nubbin on it. There we go. And that one comes up, and we are out, finally. Let's go over to the bench here. But that left, sometime a long time ago, somebody put some tape over that bad ride. Wanted to ignore it, or maybe just disable it, I don't know. But that's the cluster. Of course, we have our oil pressure and temp gauge out. We still get the ammeter and fuel gauge gets to stay because they're electrical. And then over here, this should spin. Oh yeah, it does. So what happens on these is this speedometer, you can see it in there, in these little holes here, it's a cylinder. And there's magnets on this end, the cable spins it on this end, and then the magnets, there's an inner cylinder and an outer cylinder, and the magnets create a little bit of resistance between the two cylinders, and that's what causes this bar graph to move back and forth, is however fast it spins minus the resistance. Now the problem falls in after so much time and miles, there's very tight clearances in there, and eventually it'll start to catch, or eventually it'll just catch and stick somewhere. And because there's no gear, it's a free floating mechanism driven by magnetic powers, I guess. It can stick and just stay there but not break the cable or anything else. So we're gonna get this apart next, and I think we can get it fixed without sending it off and spending a whole bunch of money. Next day alert, we got her out. Oops, just messed up my nice little clean surface there. Got her out over here on the bench. I'm gonna pull this cylinder out and you'll be able to see, but you can kind of see there, it's a big cylinder and then there's magnets, and the magnets create the resistance to the spinning between the inner cylinder that spins and the outer cylinder that stays still. And what happens is it'll get just a little bit out of whack and it'll start to drag until it gets to dragging so bad that it freezes like it did there. So we need to get that cylinder out and see what it's going to take to free it up so it spins nice. We'll go ahead and pull these guys out separate. Where's my little magnet tray? I don't know. We'll use a paper plate. It's kind of the same thing. There's our amp gauge and gas gauge. Now we can get this whole back off of here, I think. Oh, I don't see why not. You know, and I'm not the pioneer of this fix that I'm kind of headed towards, but it might need a little shimming just to make sure that it stays centered in the cylinder. But we'll see what we got here. Out we come. Yeah, here we go. So we got a couple issues here. It looks like we've got some metal shavings, and those are not from, yeah they are, they're from the end of the cylinder here. But we definitely have some metal shaving going on. So yeah, that's that side of it. And then we'll show you in here. Look, we've got some metal down in here too. And here's where our cylinder spins. So we got to get this magnet here to stop interfering. Okay, now to get the cylinder out, it looks like let's see, does the trip, maybe the trip cable needs to come out of here. Okay, I'm sorry, that's the speed set cable. And then will this come out? Yep, and then here's our trip reset cable. Remember, the bigger one is the trip reset cable. And then we have, looks like 4 screws here that are actually going to hold our cylinder in. Barrel, cylinder, whatever you want to call it. Okay. Now we should be able to, maybe not. Okay, we're just stuck on our little rubber bushings is all. So you got this protruding here. We kind of got to weasel it out. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. Set him off to the side. And now we're down to the nitty-gritty here. I actually don't think we're rubbing on this part. I think we're rubbing on the end here. Okay, we have an adjustment here. So what has happened is the cylinder is falling back this way. If we can get it to come this way, our rub goes away. So we've got probably a bushing or some wear on this end. There's a clock spring on the end of this that helps it come back to 0. Like that's maximum speed, and then it helps it unwind. When we take this end plate off, I hope we don't have too much of a springy situation. What I'd like to do is come out like that. All right. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. So there's a nubbin here. There's a nubbin on each end of this, right in the center. And this nubbin has apparently worn excessively. Here's our collar that runs around these two magnets. And then here's our adjuster ring for our speed set. But look, all this little metal down in here is the result of the inside of this ring rubbing up. See the kind of the copper color, and then see right in here on the inside. Here, I'll get a pointer. This color, and then down in here all the way around, this guy's been dragging on the inside. So we got to get this barrel pushed that way so it doesn't do that anymore. Any kind of adjustability, and I don't see any on this end. What would be nice is if you could move this nubbin and this assembly in just a little bit, but it doesn't allow for that. So what we're going to do is we're going to add something in the bottom of this bushing here to move this cylinder over this way. Probably about, I'm guessing we need about 20 thousandths or so. But we're going to blow all this metal out of here and get everything cleaned up. We'll clean up the numbers and that kind of stuff and make sure that everything's happy. I got to go cross country, so this is going to be another continuation on another next day update. But I feel pretty good about our ability to make this fix. Next day alert. I told you so. I just couldn't get things done yesterday in time before cross country. Good meet yesterday. I have a plan for this. It involves this 10 ohm old school resistor, ceramic resistor, in a way maybe that you might not know, but we'll get to that in a minute. Now that we've got this torn apart, you know, we aren't just gonna fix the speedometer. We're gonna go ahead and, you know, for one, there's metal shavings floating around all over in this cluster. So we're gonna go ahead and remove a couple layers here. This is not a glass lens, so we're gonna polish this up, put it over here, move that, and then we're gonna get all this metal and dust out of here. We're gonna clean this whole thing up and kind of refurbish it because, you know, that's the right thing to do. I had to go find my plastic polish. If you go back, watch our headlight refinishing video. I'll put a link up here. This is our final step in conditioning, resurfacing, and conditioning headlight lenses, late model plastic headlight lenses. So we're going to take just a dab of this though and because this stuff works great on all plastics, and we just have some really fine hazy scratches in this little lens here. That cleared that right up. All right, good there. Now we're gonna come and grab our large lens. Now this is our speedometer lens, and it's got actually like engraving and painted numbers on this side. This is the side that shows that, again, when you get in the car and it's a little dusty, you wipe your hand across here. We're going to clean both sides with glass cleaner, and then we'll polish as needed here. What I like about this is, I don't know what the magicals are in here, but it has some sort of you can tell it's got something in there that the plastic likes to kind of soak up and enjoy. So I think not only are you polishing, but you're kind of feeding the plastic some of the minerals and magical components that it wants in order to stay nice and bright and shiny and not get oxidized and not crack from, you know, just exposure. Oh, yeah, that looks good. Flip her around. Plus it's got a cool smell to it. I'll put a link. I don't know, I need some more. I'll have to figure out where I'm going to buy mine, and then I'll put a link down in the description. Look at that now. That's pretty darn good. There's some hard lines just from the edge of the bezel, but those aren't going to come out. But the actual viewing window section of this is just gorgeous now. There we go. All right, I think we're ready to go back and tackle this drum a little bit, and then we'll start reassembly. We're to the point where we've got to figure out how to move this guy that way. I'm guessing, you know, from the eyeballs measurement, about 20 thousandths. So disclaimer, I did not come up with this idea. There's another YouTube channel called Antique Automotive Service. I'm going to put a link to the original video where I first observed this fix. But what we're going to do is we're going to bush this out. We're going to make a bushing to go down into that tiny little hole so that this pin can ride on the bushing and move the drum over. And what we're going to use for that, now in his video he uses, I think, like part of a staple. He clips the end of a staple off. We're going to use this. It fits down in there nicely. The diameter is about the same. Plus I like it because this is the non-magnetic metal, but it's also very pliable. What we don't want to do is put something really hard down in there and have this nubbin on the drum continue to wear, because eventually then you're going to have, you know, issues that require the replacement of the drum. And my other little nubbin just came out. There we go. So we're going to do this, and we should be able to, I should have probably had tools ready. We should be able to snip this off. I mean, that's, see, right there, that's the extent of our bushing. And we're going to drop him down into the center of that bushing, and it just stuck to my pick. So we're going to try again. Oh no, it's in there, I think. We knew we did, because once we got things screwed on, it became a little difficult to turn both the drum and the speedometer cable input. So that means that now we've got things kind of clamped together. Well, on this end, there's a set screw. This bronze bushing is threaded into this part of the housing, and then it's slotted back here right here with a set screw. So we back that off just to where our speedometer will come back to 0 on its own. And then we don't feel any play now in here, but we know that we're completely free spinning. So I think we're good right there. We're gonna tighten up our set screw. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull this back apart now that we think we're adjusted correctly, and we're gonna put just a drop of electric motor oil into that bushing. We'll probably do it on both ends. They have this at the greatest place on earth. This is SAE 20 motor oil, so you can use this in your old generators and the alternators and stuff from back in the 50s and 60s cars, where they actually have the little ports to oil the bearings, where they're actually serviceable. What we'll do is we'll come over here to the end of our little nubbin, put a drop on there. Then we're going to wipe off the excess. We just kind of want residual stuff on there. Now we can go back in again, and we'll do the same thing on this end. A little bit on the end of the pick. Pull this guy out, right like that. That's all we need. This is probably a really bad angle for you guys. That's how it should work, right? You got a little bit of input from the speedo, and it should start to jump. We've got just a very small fraction of play there. We've got no rubbage. That little bit of rubbage you hear is just a little finger for the speed minder. Otherwise, life, really, I really think we're in good place here. All right, let's throw this thing back together and get it back in the car. They were just showing up there at 0, and then we flick it just a little bit and we get some movement. Very nice. All right, rest of the screws can go in then. And we have this is our speed minder cable. And it goes in over here. Last thing we'll do, and yeah, put our fuel and ammeter gauge in here. And that's the last screw we have. So I must have put it back together right. Groovy. Okay, so I didn't show you all the reconnections, and quite frankly, I didn't do all the reconnections. We hooked up the ammeter, and the oil and temp gauge are hooked up. But then we left the lights and stuff hanging out of this unit because there's a chance that we might have to try and do some calibration on this speedometer. But it should start now. Oh, there we go. So yeah, it's running, and we've got the phone. We'll have a GPS speedometer, and then we'll have this speedometer, and we'll just kind of compare the two. We're going to go for a quick little ride here and see how close we might be. Here we go. So far, we've got speedometer. Kind of sort of seems almost kind of accurate. It says we're going right around 30. Let me check the phone. Phone says we're doing 34. 36, we might be just a couple miles an hour off. We're going to get up to highway speed here, and we'll know more. Steering. Speedometer says 70. My phone says 65. Alright, it's settled in right at 5 miles an hour off, and it's probably not got the stock size tires on it. I'm saying we're going to leave it right here. If we start tinkering with it anymore, there's a good chance that we'll totally flub up the calibration. So this is a win, you guys. We didn't have to send this off to any kind of professional rebuilder. We cleaned her all up. We're going to finish hooking everything back up. We're going to put this dash back together and move on to the next thing. Thanks for joining along for this one. This is pretty cool. You know, fixing, restoring, and fixing vintage cars on a budget can be done. You know, thanks to the Antique Automotive Mechanic for, you know, breaking ground on this. Next, I think we're going to tackle the ventilation system in this, and then we'll move on to a little bit more significant items. But thanks for watching this one. Like, comment, subscribe. If you've got questions about what we did here, or comments on how maybe we could have done it better or different, hey, just let us know. We love responding to comments. Appreciate you. We'll catch you on the next video.